Welcome to the Chiefs Briefing, where we have conversations with people on the front lines of justice, public safety, and community impact. I'm Chief Jason Kuzik, and today we're diving into one of the most exciting and fast-evolving areas of law enforcement, technology. From body cameras to digital dispatch, and now artificial intelligence, technology is transforming how police serve and protect. Now joining us today is Brian Birdsell, who oversees the technology and innovation for the Lewiston Police Department and the City of Lewiston. We'll talk about how Lewiston is using these tools to improve efficiency, capability, and community trust, and what the future might hold. So welcome, Brian. I appreciate you taking some time out of your busy day to join us. And my first question we're going to start with you. Can you give the audience kind of a brief overview of your career and how you came to be involved with the technology side of LPD?
Well, good morning. My career. Let's just start by saying I was born and raised here in the Lewis-Clark Valley. I'm a third-generation law enforcement officer following the footsteps of my father, who worked for the Nez Perce County Sheriff's Department. My grandfather was a sheriff in Asotin County and finally out in Garfield County. I began my career at LPD in 1994 as a reserve officer while I was going to college. Got my bachelor's degree from Lewis-Clark State College, and then I was hired full-time here at LPD back in 1999. Through my career, I've done so many things, from patrol to being a school resource officer at Jennifer Junior High School, go Burros, I spent a lot of time in the detective division doing crime scenes, major crimes, evidence, custodian. I've been on the major collision team for almost my whole career, which was, it's just investigating very serious car accidents. Yeah. The last official title I held as a sworn police officer with the police department was Internet Crimes Against Children, where I learned a lot of different things about technology. And at that point, when I was getting rotated out, because, in ICAC, you see a lot of things that are they're really bad. I decided that I wanted to continue down that technology and use some of those skills that I had gotten in ICAC. And I applied to become the police systems coordinator at that time. So that was in 2019. That time, I really started getting into, how we can make our officers more efficient and what is the best tools that we can give them to do the best job that they're doing out there on the street. And I know this is a little bone in your side here. And then in 2024, my position was absorbed into the Information Systems and Security Department for the City of Lewiston. That was really tough. It was tough leaving the police department. It's been my whole career being a cop. But at the same time, it gave me a whole team of people that were much smarter than me in the technology realm to give me support and allow me to do my job even better. So it was really tough. And I know it was tough for the police department for me to be absorbed into that other role, but it's also given us a new set of tools, which has really allowed me to grow in what I do, but also I think it's made it better for us. I know you could probably argue that because you've been seeing me all the time, but it is, it was a good move.
And I don't disagree. And that's what we're saying is Brian transitioned over full-time to the Information Systems and Security Department, basically to consolidate all the really smart tech people into one division. It was a big loss for our department individually, but collectively it was the right move and it was a good move overall. So, but moving on. So what I want to ask is, so we'll kind of set the stage for the listeners, and we're going to kind of take more of a macro view a little bit, but can you kind of give us an overview of the kind of the key technologies that are currently used by the police department?
Well, and I know later on we're going to talk about some other things, but it has come so far from when I started back as a reserve officer in 1994, where we didn't have a lot of these tools. We didn't have a lot of these things that that are just commonplace in society today. if you were to set into a patrol car, and we're going to talk a lot about patrol cars and patrol officers, because that's where a lot of the technology lies. But we also have a ton of technology that is also integrated into our dispatch centers and stuff like that. But a lot of times when people think about technology in the police department, dispatchers and the communications section is kind of glossed over. They don't think about them a lot. But we try to give them as many tools as they can to, when they get those phone calls, to be able to allow them to get the officers on scene as fast as they can, get them to the right location, and then
with the most accurate information.
With the most accurate information that you can. And we'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later. But, when we talk about some of the technologies that I've really seen blossom over the years is, in the old days, we had a computer at the police department where you would go in and type a report. Now we have computers in the police cars. We call them mobile data computers. We have upgraded radio systems in our cars. We have Wi-Fi networks that emit from our cars that allow the body cameras to talk to the computer in the car, that allow the in-car video systems to talk to each other and do different things. We have, what they call SWET, which is statewide electronic ticketing, which allows officers to scan driver's licenses in the car. It automatically fills out that information on the citation, so they're not sitting there writing it down. A lot of it's just, touch, drop menu. They bring those things down, and then it prints the ticket out, and then they give it to the officer. That ticket is then electronically submitted to the courts, so there's not a lot of, on the back end, all the paper trail. It's all electronic now. So some of those things were implemented for efficiency. Our body cameras that we've been wearing since 2017. Our in-car video systems, which do a myriad of different things. Our taser, our electronic energized weapon.
Conducted energy
weapon. And all of that technology is constantly evolving. And some of the cool things with our technology that we do have on that is when we sign these contracts with these vendors, we get auto refresh. So as a new technology comes out, we automatically get it. We don't have to wait 5 years down the road to get the newest body camera. One of the things that when we talk about body cameras is we have some really nice officer safety enhancements in those body cameras. So say, for example, an officer's on a foot pursuit, and so we don't have an exact location where that officer is, and then that officer gets in distress and he can't get out on the radio to say where he's at. All of those body cameras have LTE chips in them, so we can geolocate where that officer is instantly to be able to get them help. So we have some things that in the old days they'd say, I don't know where he's at. He's somewhere in the neighborhood of 500 Main Street. Now we can narrow it down, within 25 feet.
Get them help quicker, yeah.
Yeah, to get them help quicker. And some of that stuff wasn't even thought of, when I first started being a cop way back in the day.
Yeah, I remember when I first started, it was actually baked into my last agency's policies that one of the first things we had to do in a foot pursuit is start calling out directions, streets, like that, because nobody really knew where you were. It was almost like a vehicle pursuit. You had to call out your location quite regularly.
Yeah, and
imagine doing that with 25 pounds of gear on and a radio in your hand, but
and breathing heavy and running, it's tough.
All right. Great. That's truly a macro view to really dive down. Each system has its own, a lot we can discuss beyond that. So how about like day-to-day improvements as they kind of continue to evolve? How is recent upgrades, like in view, you talked about communication, that's when we can get into it a little bit more. But improvements to the communication or data systems, how's that changed officers' work, say, day to day?
I guess the best way I can describe that, upgrades are a fun challenge. Everything that seems so easy, someone comes and says, hey, can you just do this? But we have to look on a much broader scale of how are we going to implement that? How does that affect the whole group? Once we get into it, does that cause another issue in another area? So, whenever we get into that whole thing of, hey, let's just upgrade a system, it's it takes us a while to do it because there's a lot of evaluation. There's a lot of background preparation to be able to just change one small thing, whether it be, just a short procedure or, like you were talking about our radio communications. So one thing that some people might, if you're out in the scanner world, that you might realize is that lately you don't hear our Channel 1 traffic anymore. The main thing that we did is we recently upgraded our Channel 1 from an old analog standard to a new P25 digital standard. So what that did is the federal government after 9/11 came up with some standards so that whenever you have multi-agency response, the radios need to be able to talk to each other. In the old days, if you had, say, for example, a certain brand of radio, it might use a standard that a different company didn't use. So those radios didn't talk to each other when they got into the digital standard to be able to talk to each other. So the P25 compliance standard kind of made that so that everybody, when they get together, has the same type of communication standard, so they're going to be able to talk to each other. So you might say, well, why go digital versus analog? What's the big difference, right? So what the change from analog to digital allows us to do is it allows us to have a much clearer communication with our officers. And for example, if you were to go into St. Joseph's Hospital, it's got lots of MRI machines, lots of technology. It's kind of your cell phone's going to struggle to work inside St. Joe's in certain areas because of those things. So if you go into St. Joe's with an analog radio and you try to transmit out, it's just going to be static. You're not going to be able to understand what the officer's saying. When we transferred to the P25 digital standard, that officer's now able to take the same radio on the same frequency, but since it's using a digital standard, we can now understand what they're saying. They're able to communicate with dispatch and they're able to get in and out. St. Joe's isn't the only place that we had trouble communicating. A lot of these newer buildings have low E glass, which is not conducive to cell phone or radio technology. It just bounces off the window. So doing that allowed us to make sure that our officers are able to communicate in some of those locations where they weren't able to communicate before. And so we'll play a couple of audio clips that we actually took from basically the first floor of St. Joe's. One will be analog, one will be digital, and you'll be able to tell the difference between the two.
332, you're scratching and broken.
332, radio check on 3.
332, loud and clear.
Okay.
I appreciate that. And but back to kind of your original point, though, even that was kind of a long-term project. It's not like you see in Hollywood where you just write one line of code and all this magic technology gets better. This was a long project, and a lot of thought and effort went into making this happen, all simply so we have better transmissions.
Yeah, and the thing is when we started the project to completely go to the P25 digital standard, this started many, many years ago. It actually started back when the standard started being implemented back in 2012. But we finally got the correct equipment to be able to do that. We had to upgrade our car radios. We had to upgrade our portable radios. We had to upgrade our repeater systems so that all of those things were using the same thing. And then when we went to make the switch, it wasn't like, well, hey, let's just change our channel and then do it. We didn't change our frequency, number one. It just changed the way that we're communicating over that frequency. But once we did that, we also had to coordinate with all of our partners. We had to coordinate with Clarkston Police, Nez Perce County Sheriff, Idaho State Police, Washington State Police across river, Sultan County Sheriff, the Lewiston Fire Department, Clarkston Fire, all these different people that have our frequency in case of a big emergency. Yeah. We had to tell all of them, hey, on this date, we are changing our channel. Please upgrade your channel at that time. We still have channel 2, which is analog. So if somebody didn't have time on that day, they could still talk to us. But our main dispatch frequency changed on November 3rd. And then that's when we had to do all that coordination. And it took us a long time to get it done. But, you know, as you could hear from those audio clips, it is much clearer now. And it has taken our officers, you know, it has a different sound digital, because as you listen to an audio versus a digital signal, it does have a different signal.
Yeah.
But with that, we're able to also, on the P25 digital side, when it's sending a digital packet with that information in it, which is the audio, and it's very fast, we can also transmit now locations. So the radios now can transmit where they are. You know, it geolocates not only, like we were talking about before, the body cam, now we're geolocating the radio. So now we can track where that officer currently is by their radio. So it allows us to do a lot of different things that we weren't able to do before. Now, before I get a bunch of hate mail from people out in Scannerland, I mean, you can still listen to us if you have a P25 compliant scanner. So you just have to do it. It's the same frequency, but you do have to have a P25 digital compliant scanner.
I appreciate you updating. That was going to be my next question about, is it the public still capable of hearing?
Yeah, we're not hiding anything. And,
Yeah.
You know, it's just you have to change the thing that you listen to us with.
Exactly. Okay. Well, then how about hurdles? So what kind of challenges have you faced, especially in this new role, with adopting or maintaining new systems now? For example, as far as the training, costs, potentially cybersecurity? I know it's a big question.
Yeah, it is a big question.
Try to compartmentalize it, but...
Well, I mean, everybody knows the cost of technology keeps going up. And technology keeps evolving every day. That's why... You know, every year we have a new iPhone. Every year we have a new this. We have better cameras now. We have, kind of a funny side note. I remember in the old days where we spent thousands of dollars on a beautiful DSLR camera for crime scenes or officers to have on the streets. And now your iPhone takes a better picture than some of those DSLR cameras. I mean, it's crazy.
Which is a very high-end camera at the time.
Yeah, it's crazy. So it's basically comes down to, the cost. And anytime you add law enforcement, public safety, fire, anything to a tag on a technology, it gets more expensive.
Yeah.
Because they have to build those systems so robust, because they have to be able to work 24/7, 365 days a year,
Under
all
stressful
the time,
conditions.
all the time. Yeah. And a lot of times you could say, well, gosh, I could get a little radio walkie-talkie on the street, for $100. Why do you pay $3,000 for a portable radio? Well, but yours isn't out in the snow and the rain all the time. It isn't getting thrown on the ground if, you're in a stressful situation and stuff like that. So, they have to be built to last. They have to be reliable, and we have to be able to make sure that they have all the fail-safes and redundancies so that they work all the time. But, a lot of times we'll see when we get contacted by vendors to buy a new product, it's not necessarily the product that's expensive, it's the maintenance fees. Yeah. It's the yearly cost to get all the upgrades and to make sure that it's currently running the best thing. For those of you that don't understand, it's like, how often do you get an iPhone upgrade? How often do you get a Microsoft Windows upgrade? And then if you don't upgrade it, another program doesn't work. So it's a constant making sure that everything has the correct software and back end so that it works correctly on the front end.
And then once those upgrades happen, then again, we have to have a full department training or some module so they understand. And we know adult learning, a lot of times it's, change is difficult sometimes. So it's once not only do we get the training, but then having it fully adopted, and then where everybody's working efficiently with whatever new update or even new tool that's introduced.
Well, and when
I
you
appreciate the conversations about cost too, which is true. And yeah, we have to be very fiscally responsible. Whatever tool we adopt, obviously, is it worth the investment?
well, yeah, and you got all these different people working different shifts, and then
Yeah.
you got to get everybody together to do the training, and it gets very expensive to do that. You touched a little bit you asked about cybersecurity, and that's huge in our realm, not only on the police side, but the city side, where, in the information system security department, we're constantly, with all the firewalls and all the different security features that we have in effect, because we have, especially in the law enforcement side, we have a lot of very sensitive information, and we have a lot of stuff that we just can't have the normal public seeing, because we come across that through criminal investigations, stuff like that. You don't just give people that information and say, go release that to Sally down the street. You want to keep that secure. But just like normal citizens every day have somebody trying to break into their bank account or give them a call trying to scam them into a free $60,000 loan with these easy payments and this and that, and, just send me your social security number. We have the same thing on the government side, where they're constantly trying to intercept systems so that they can shut them down and then request money to reinstate those systems or unencrypt your data or stuff like that. So the cybersecurity side of it's huge on our side, and that's why we have to make sure that not only the vendors that we work with, but also the systems we implement, keep the continuity of that security in place.
Gotcha. Well, then I think that's a good transition, is talking about some kind of reliability. So what would happen if one of our major systems does go down? How does that impact operations?
Oh, gosh. I mean, well, think about it in the respect of, just like we rely on cellular networks, we rely on the internet, we rely on some of that stuff. So if some of those things go down, or a phone system goes down, or say, for example, someone cuts a fiber optic line that takes out the phone system, or that, all of that affects how we get information to our dispatch center, which is then relayed to our officers and all that. So we have to have a lot of different redundancies on how we get information. So, when you're talking about major systems, I mean, if you went into, the server rooms for the police department and that, you would see lots of battery backups. We have lots of generators to give us power if the power goes out. We have lots of different backups of our information, so that if a server goes down or something isn't working correctly, we can still access that information. Because if we lose that major system, we can't just say, oh, let's just start over.
Yeah.
We have to have those redundancies. We have to have all this backup equipment and backup processes so that we can continue to function.
Because it's that interesting, I don't know if dichotomy is quite the right word, but technology has made police work more efficient, and we can get more done with less in a way, but we're that much more reliant on it. I think you and I are to a point where we remember our careers where we started out, where we went out on the street with a car that had nothing inside of it other than seats and a steering wheel and our gun belt, and then we had a box with a bunch of forms in it.
Yeah,
we could go out and do police work with almost no technology.
A notepad and a pen to write down the address of where you're going.
Yeah, and you're right. Same thing. I'd go back, there'd be one computer in the station, and we would do all the reports, the narrative part. Everything else was all handwritten. Yeah, it was very interesting. But now we're so dependent on it, but now it also causes this redundancy, which actually was going to be my next talk. But so you actually covered that perfectly. So, so then let's start looking ahead a little bit then for the tech landscape. From your position, what kind of upcoming technologies, is there anything that's exciting you? Is there anything that Lewiston might be looking to adopt or at least consider?
Well, I don't know if it's not necessarily for the city to adopt, I guess, per se, but for our dispatch center. And this is going to be, and I know that you've went to a lot of meetings on Next Gen 911. That is kind of the new big thing that's coming. And just kind of a little overview of what Next Gen 911 is. It's an upgrade of our old analog phone systems to a modern IP-based or computer-based phone system. A lot of people might go, well, why is that necessary? Think about how many of you still have a landline phone at your house. How many of you got rid of those and now just have cell phones? Or if you go into a business, there might be a phone that looks like a landline, but it's hooked into your computer system and it's VoIP, it's voice over internet protocol. So it's not necessarily your standard old rotary phone. When I was a kid and I wanted to call a girl, I had to go grab the phone that was attached to a cord on the wall and stand in the kitchen in front of everybody else and make a phone call.
Or hope mom and dad bought the 40-foot cable and you could
walk
walk the phone in your bedroom so they wouldn't make fun of you.
Or the laundry room or whatever,
Well, privacy. Yeah.
But now everybody's got a cell phone. And so with that, we've had to change on the public safety side how we ingest that information. And those old, what they call legacy systems that ingested that information don't necessarily work that well with the voice over internet, or they don't relay the same information.
But the old school landline still does work just fine.
Yeah.
But this is just adopting to new technology.
Yeah, it still works fine. So then in the old system, if I called from, my parents' phone, it backtracked to that location, and then dispatch could say that address came from, I'll say the police department, 1224 F Street. It came from there. So you were able to do it. Now, if you have a cell phone and you call dispatch and you say, I need help, where are you at? I don't know where I'm at. We need to be able to get that geolocation data to dispatch so that they know where that person needs help. And so these next gen systems allow all of that stuff to be ingested and get that information to dispatch as quick as we can. Now let's go a little deeper into that and think, well, what if you're being held hostage and you can't get on the phone and say, I need help? What if all you can do is text? What if all you can do is send a photo? What if all you can do is, do something like that? Now this next gen system allows that stuff to be sent and allows dispatch to get it and see it. And then a dispatcher could go, oh my God, they're down by the river. I know where they're at. We can get them help. Where before you might just be sitting out there going, I can't make a phone call because they're going to know, or this or that,
or it's obvious.
Yeah. So what it does is it allows us to get that information quicker. And a lot of those are, those systems are paid for by fees that you pay when you buy your cell phone. And some of those things, on your monthly bill, and you'll go, what the heck is this 25 or 50 cents for? It's for that. And you might think, well, that's kind of a ripoff. I don't want to pay 50 cents extra a month, until you need that help. And you're sitting out there in the middle of Waha or wherever, and you can get a cell signal, but you don't know where you're at. And now we know where you're at because your phone just told us. And so it helps on so many levels, and it's going to make our dispatch so much more efficient. And so that's it's a cool thing. We talked a lot about it yesterday at the Digby meeting, which is the Digital Interoperability Governance Board. It's a big mouthful. But that's what we talk about. We talk about getting these systems to our public safety people so that they can get that stuff out there. And it's going to be a game changer. It's coming soon. They were talking at the meeting that the stuff's on its way. It's going to be delivered. So I think they said we're looking at mid-spring, early summer implementation. So, but it's going to be big. It's going to be big, and it's going to...
When it starts implementation. But Lewiston is actually not that far off from having this adoption.
And that's when they're looking at. And so, but on the flip side, the average taxpayer, the average citizen will have really no idea what's going on until they need help.
Yeah.
And, but that's stuff that it's behind the scenes and stuff. And you might see a press release and go, oh, cool, we got Next Gen 911. I don't know what the heck that is. But when you need help, that's when it's going to happen.
Exactly.
Or even if, like say, for example, in the old days, I could say, gosh, they're over by Fleener's. And someone would go, I don't know where that's at. Well, that's A&B on 8th Street. But when I was a kid, it was Fleener's grocery store. And so you might have an elderly person that does have a cell phone that refers to something that a younger generation's going, I have no idea what you're talking
Yeah.
about.
But our dispatcher will see a GPS location.
Yeah, but they'll see a GPS location and go, someone needs help. We're going to send the cavalry, and here they come.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's going to be a game changer, and it's going to be really, really cool.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
It's exciting technology. And again, I'm glad you brought up our dispatchers because, there's definitely going to be a new world for them. But I think they're looking forward to it. But again, like everybody else, they have to have the capability of adapting, which our team does. And that's what's really exciting about them. And I'm excited to get this new technology in their hands and see what they can do with it as well.
Well, and one of the things that we don't talk about a lot is, a lot of people say, oh, God, I wouldn't want to be a cop. I want to be a cop. Being a dispatcher is hard.
Yep.
It's hard work. There's a reason I'm not a dispatcher. I can't do it.
Same here.
I can't do it. I would love to do it, but being that calm voice behind, when you need help, I mean, I have so much respect for our dispatchers.
Yeah.
I tell them that sometimes they're just like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. Just going to work. Exactly.
But-
They're very humble about it,
But they are
They're the
phenomenal people.
front facing for the department because they have to take care of the incoming call, but then they have to worry about their officers on the back end. And that's how they refer to us. These are my officers.
Yeah.
But they also see these are my people in the community. That's like, they have a very parenting mentality about it where they want to take care of everybody. And that's what I so respect and appreciate about them so much.
Yeah. If you know a dispatcher, tell them thank you.
Thank you. Exactly. Thank you for that. And I agree. So evaluating new tech, we're not a big community, but so as your team collaborates with LPD, how do you kind of help decide which emerging techs, for example, predictive systems or any kind of maybe even drones, some of these newer technologies come out. How do we determine and work together from your side where you feel really fits the department and the community's need?
Oh gosh, I tell you, and that's the hard part is I constantly get officers, people come up and go, hey, have you seen this? Can we get this? Can we buy that? Can we buy that? And this is really kind of funny is when I first took over this position, some of my internal responses were always like, why would we do that? That's not how we do stuff. I mean, we do it this way.
Yeah.
And I really quickly had to change my thought process and go, okay, old duffer, is that really the best way to do it? And my new response in my head now is not, well, that's the way we've always done it, because that's literally the worst response you can give anybody. The way you're currently doing it might be the best way, but at least look at it, figure it out. There might be a more efficient way. There might be an easier way. Yep. And I don't constantly want to be that person that go, yeah, Birdsell always says no. Well, it's not that I say no. It's that we might not be able to afford it.
Yep.
We might not be able to implement it for the small amount of times that we would use it. Or if you have something super cool, but you use it once a year and then you go to use it and you're like, I don't even remember how to use it.
Yeah.
So you have those things that are, low frequency,
High severity things.
Yeah, high severity things, but you still have to practice with them and you have to know how to use them. Otherwise they're useless. So that's been a real transition, over the years. And, I'm not going to say I'm perfect, but that's my biggest struggle is go, okay, let's look at it. How can we make it better? And
within looking under the umbrella of, is it fiscally responsible? Is it a practical tool, and will we use it enough to make it worthwhile? Yes.
But I think you said it, but one of the things that we are looking at is drones. And a lot of times people, they get very concerned about drones. They think of, oh my gosh, the police department's just going to be flying something over and seeing what I'm doing in my backyard. And it's not that, because, a lot of times what people have to realize is that, for the police department to fly a drone, we have to have an FAA license to do it. And every time we put it in the air, we have to have a reason to do it, and we have to get clearance to do it. It's not like we're just like, I wonder what Chief Kuzik's doing with his new lawnmower.
Yeah.
And then fly over his yard. We can't do that. So we have to look at different ways. And so that you think, well, why would a police department need a drone? And then I think about it, look at it like this, like the SWAT team would like a drone that could go into a house. Why would you need that? Well, let's say you have a barricaded subject, not necessarily an active shooter thing where you have to take action or someone's going to be hurt, but you have a barricaded subject that you can't necessarily walk away from, but you need to know what's going on. You can send a drone into a house and talk to them. You can send a drone into the house and see, are they hurt? Do they need assistance? Or if they're not there, I remember one instance where they had a barricaded subject and they weren't sure if they should enter the house, and they flew the drone, and then they found that the person was asleep. Mm-hmm. So they were able to go in and diffuse that situation quickly without, causing harm. But if you could send a drone into a situation like that and not put an officer at risk, by all means, let's use that technology. Or say, for example, back in the major collision days, when I was on the major collision team, we wanted to get a drone at the time, but the culture on the drones was very negative at that point, and people were very against it. But say, for example, you have a crash at 21st and Main Street, and it's a serious injury collision, or it's a fatality collision. For the major collision team to come out, we have to come out, set up a total station, which is a laser measuring device, and then measure the scene so that we can document the scene if there's going to be criminal action, or just so that we can give the family some answers as to what caused this crash that their loved one passed away. So to do that, we might have to close that whole intersection for 5 or 6 hours so that we document it. With a drone, we have the possibility of sending it up. Not only can you see roadway evidence that you can't see from the ground, skid marks, scuff marks, stuff like that, but you can use measuring tools in the drone that you could literally put the drone in the air for 20 minutes, get that information, confirm that you have the information, get the cars out of there, and open the intersection fast.
And then do a digital reconstruction.
Yeah, and then do a reconstruction of the crash scene. And a lot of times, you have two sides of that coin. You have the side of the coin saying, well, if you're doing a criminal investigation and you're, going after somebody that hurt somebody in a car crash, okay, yeah, I can see closing the intersection. But when you close like literally that is an intersection of Highway 12 and, a lot of the main arterials in our city right there, and having it closed for 5 hours is going to cause a huge disruption in normal everyday life for everybody.
Commuting, yes.
Yeah, so if you can use a drone to make us more efficient, and then not paying the team to sit out there and measure a scene for that long. I mean, there's a myriad of different things. It makes sense to use it in those situations.
It's an efficiency tool.
Yeah. Or a major, a major incident that's going down, say it's a big fire. Mm-hmm. You can put that up and you can look at some different things, and it helps not only the fire department, but the police department determine response. How many resources do we need? Where do we need to send those resources? Where is it? Where's the best place to send those resources?
Yes.
So it's a huge
tool.
It's a huge tool. It's something that, we're looking into greatly. It's just very expensive.
Yeah.
It's an expensive tool, but it makes us much more efficient in some areas that I think it's somewhere that we need to look.
Yeah, agreed. And like I said, I had these conversations. Our teams have talked about it, and just for clarity, I mean, the city nor the department has purchased a drone. It's just one of those systems that we need to at least. I don't think it's a smarter use of time to at least evaluate the tool and see if it's right for our community.
Yes.
And that's kind of where we're at with that, but I appreciate that. So I don't know if we can really quite call it the elephant in the room as far as technology and future forward looking, but let's talk about AI for a little bit, artificial intelligence. So kind of what are your thoughts about Lewiston PD exploring or even preparing potentially for any kind of AI adoption or use?
Well, I can tell you that there are many vendors that we have that have AI options. We haven't implemented any of them at this time, but we've looked at them. Axon, for example, has
and Axon's our body camera vendor.
Axon's our body camera. Sorry about that. That has an AI feature that will literally transcribe the interaction, just like if me and you are having an interaction here and I'm talking to you about a theft. okay, Mr. Kuzik, at what time was this stolen, blah, 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 blah. And the AI is going to go in there and go, okay, he's talking to them about this, and start writing the report and say, oh, he's missing a bicycle. The bicycle was stolen on this date, da, da, da. And then, but one of the cool things with the Axon technology is it leaves things out on purpose so that it makes it so you have to go in and read it. You can't just submit what the Axon AI did as your report. If you tried to put that into the system, it would say, sorry, no human has looked at this. No human has verified the information. You cannot submit this. So it does have some safeguards in that respect.
And that safeguard, if I understand, is in place mainly because, and I understand this when an officer, say, goes to testify in court, one of the first questions is going to be, is this your report that you prepared? They wouldn't actually be able to honestly say, yes, I prepared this because it was computer generated.
Yeah.
Even though it's your interactions, your words, it still has to be the product of the officer.
Yeah. So that's why he has to go in and make those changes. Yeah. But, before we talked about different things with things that we have to meet in our work. And one of the things that we follow is called the CJIS standard, which is the Criminal Justice Information System. We have to have all these trainings and stuff to even be certified to say, run a driver's check, because the information that comes back has very sensitive PII, personal information, about you. So I can't just share that with people. If I get your driver's return, I can't just say, oh, hey, everybody, you want to see what his driving record is, where he lives, what his address is, what his driver's license number, date of birth, blah, 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 blah. I can't just share that with people. So part of that is whenever you use an AI technology in the law enforcement world, it has to have those CJIS standards. It can't be just an AI off the internet. We can't just go to Google and say, I need a thing that will transcribe this video, because you could find something. Mm-hmm. You could ingest a video into ChatGPT and say, could you do a transcription of this video? And it would do it.
Yeah.
But where's the information stored when it did that? Is somebody on the other end have that and went, oh, wow, that's really cool information to know about Mr. Kuzik on that. And,
which is kind of a backbone of large language models, right? Because it needs to ingest data to get smarter.
Yeah.
But CJIS compliant things, it wouldn't be allowed.
Yeah. And so you have to have those standalone AI models that are self-encapsulated. Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
It doesn't share it. And then also, once you get into the law enforcement world, you have a whole different set of standards when it comes to data retention and data safeguards, which is the CJIS model. We can't just have an interaction with somebody and get rid of it the next day. Mm-hmm. If we have a video of somebody and they've committed a misdemeanor, we have to keep that video for a certain time frame, because if it goes to court or whatever.
Yeah.
So we have to have those data retention policies for how long we keep it. And then if there's no criminal action, how long before it's purged out of our system and stuff like that. But the AI part has to be its own system. It can't be something that's just out there, because, if you're taking
like purpose built, basically.
Yeah. It's got to be purpose built, which what's that do? Yeah. Cost a lot of money, yep. And so then you get back into the thing. And so,
AI is coming fast into the police world, though.
It's coming very fast. And then we have to figure out how we can implement it safely. And then, but if we do look at that and we get to the point we're ready to pull
because that's what it feels like to me. It's not a matter of like, if it's when.
It's when.
Because even a lot of the vendors we work with Motorola and Axon, they're all very much investing in heavily getting involved in AI. So it's just agreed. It's just a matter of when. What's that's going to look for us.
And then we have to have conversations with the prosecutor's office.
Yeah.
How does that look when we go to court? What do we have to do to ensure that we have done our due diligence on our end, that it is actually, even though it's AI generated, it's verified and it's a work product of the officer.
Yes.
and it's admissible in court.
Yeah.
Because if we can't get it admissible in court, it's useless.
Yeah.
So we have to be able to say that we can use it. Otherwise, why even have it?
Yeah. It's an interesting topic, and it's evolving quickly. So one I'm keeping my eye on, and we'll just see what the future holds in that realm. So and in that kind of context, so how does LPD and the Information System Security Department for the city evaluate technologies to ensure that they're fair, unbiased, and they align with our community expectations? I think we touched on it a little bit, but I know that's one of even the concerns of AI. There is still some kind of built-in biases, and how do we make sure what we get is truly just an objective tool?
Gosh,
and I know it's kind of a esoteric question.
No, it's a big question, but like I mentioned, the information we come into every day is very sensitive. We can't just release it to any internet or AI tool that we come across. So that's why I said we have to have lots of different eyes looking on it or looking at it before we implement it. Not only the people at LPD, the people at Information System Security, the city legal department.
Yep, I was going to say
does it violate anything in even the HR department?
Mm-hmm.
And then, like I said, we have to talk to the prosecutors. We have to say, if we go through all this, is this going to create a hurdle for you once it comes time to get this introduced into court? But like I said, we have a lot of very smart people that look at things and a lot of different processes before something ever gets implemented.
A couple of tools we've used, I know, and I'm a fan of kind of doing test runs, have a small control group, where we can kind of isolate them into a sandbox and see if we even like the tool and if it's working and producing the way, first of all, it's presented to us, marketed to us, and then if it will work. Because, I know you being in the community your whole life, and you're being the head of the department, but you also being part of a very important department. We only want stuff that's going to be right for the community. Because again, what works for Lewiston may not work for a large city, and vice versa. Mm-hmm. So, but the biggest thing is we just need to make sure that it's a tech it's viable. And I know that's the one concern I've read about AI is some of the bias, because I think we've all seen those news reports where it's like, hey, generate a picture of this, and it's a completely off the mark, but that's what the AI knows. So making sure it's better. And I'm not a fan of being the first one to adopt anything either. It may look cool and it may be right, but I'm also a fan of letting Dallas PD or City of Dallas work through some of the hurdles first.
Well, and or anytime it says beta, which it's not even released yet, you don't want to be the beta people.
Beta couldn't even win the home video recording wars. So yeah.
Or it's sometimes it's not best when it says there's an iPhone update to do. Oh, immediately. No, give it a couple days.
Right. That's a great example.
There might be an issue with it. So.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. And so as far as your team goes, and like you said, you abandoned the police department, which hurt me, but I understand it. It's all about the big picture. So tell me about a day in the life of a tech team. So can you kind of walk us through what a typical day would be for the ISS team and some of the kind of the issues and projects you guys handle? Because you don't have a big team, but your guys are very impactful. But what's interesting, though, is you take care of all of the technology needs for the entire city, every department.
Well, I can tell you my position specifically, I'm still tied a lot to the police department and then the fire department. So a lot of times I usually start my day at the police department, and I just walk through the door and I'll look at the boards and I'll figure out, did we have any equipment issues over the night? Because like we talked about before, equipment breaks. Yeah. Is there anything we need to fix? Was there a problem? Is there something that happened that I didn't get a phone call in the middle of the night saying something's not working? But then once we check that, it's making sure all the systems work, making sure our internet's working correctly, making sure our cars are connected correctly to the cell network so that they get the information from their cars and stuff like that. But I can tell you that, after 25 years of being a cop, being in ISS is similar in respects to when I get to work, I have no idea I have a basic idea of what I'm going to do, but you never know what's going to happen.
What the day's gonna bring.
Something can break, something can go bad.
But it could be at wastewater, it could be at somewhere in the park department.
It could be the parks department can't.
Could be your own gear.
Yeah, it can be our gear. It can be, and the thing is like, it can be simple. It can be very complex. But it's like I said, it's just like we rely on the same internet that, the citizens do, the same cell coverage, the same things like that. One thing that I always think is funny is when things are going great, people love IT. They love ISS, which, information system security. They, when the systems go down, we're under a microscope. And then it's like, how fast can they fix it? Why did you let it go down? Why did you let it break? And it's like, I didn't do anything, or something, or like we said before, even a simple thing as, a Windows update can break something, and did the vendor that you're using update their systems to accommodate the brand new Windows update? And sometimes it's waiting for them to get the patch so that things work smoothly, I always feel bad for Suzanne, who does our Spillman, because Spillman is our CAD system, which is computer aided dispatch, and then also our RMS, which is records management system. So all of our reports and everything go through the Spillman system, and they'll send out a patch fixing something. And every time they send out a patch, it breaks something that causes her grief.
It's a very complex system.
Yeah. And I'm very surprised that she still has any hair in her head because, I think some days she just wants to pull her hair out. But, a typical day could be anything, from helping somebody to, it could be anything from my computer doesn't work. Is it turned on? Whoops. Okay. Sorry. It came unplugged, and then you go and fix it, to a complex network issue that something just went wonky and you got to track it down. And then you're like, oh, okay. The computer in my office at the PD the other day stopped working. And I was like, it took me a little bit to figure out the network cable that went from my wall port to the computer got pinched and quit working. Yeah. So here I'm thinking,
hardware failure.
Where is it? And my boss, Dustin, always tells me, he says, start easy, work hard. And then he, because start at the simplest thing and then go to the most complex, because it might not be as big of an issue as you think. It might be something really small that you can do really quickly. And a lot of times that's saved me.
That's what I've learned back in the day. When in doubt, reboot.
Yeah, reboot. And I hate to say that, but there are so many times, even with your, I'll give a thing to the citizens. Restart your phone every day. Just let it start new. You spend so much time on your phone. Get all the junk out of it. Get all the cache. Get everything out. Just let it start new. And your computer's no different. Every website you go to, everything you do, everything takes a little bit of memory, a little bit of cache, a little bit of resources. And if you don't restart but once a month, you got a lot of junk in there. And especially if you don't do your updates.
Yeah, I'm saying push those updates too.
Oh gosh, do your updates, because it'll cause issues.
Well, I just got one more question for you then, kind of a simple one. So obviously we've talked about the beginning, the middle, the end. So where do you think has tech helped? But the biggest question I got is, are there any old school processes, anything that's changed or been replaced with technology that you miss?
I don't think that I miss it per se. It's just, it was a shift. And I say that it was a shift in, I guess I'm looking for the right words, but in the old days when I went to testify in court, it was just me. I was like, what happened? Well, I responded, I saw Mr. Kuzik doing this. Okay, what evidence do you have? I have this. Now, if you go to court and you don't have DNA and you don't have a body camera or a video camera footage or this, the public doesn't believe you. because there's so much technology out there that they expect it on even the smallest of incidents. And so I miss the ability to be able to just have somebody believe another human without having a video of it, you know? So that's kind of a weird thing that, you know, you just don't, your word isn't as much as it used to be.
That answer really resonates, especially with me, but that's actually an amazing answer. Yeah. I hadn't even thought about, when I kind of thought about that question, I wasn't quite sure they're going to talk about like phones or something, but yeah, is the kind of to really bring it all to where technology is just the expectation, not the exception anymore.
Well, I'll give you one more really kind of funny one. I remember back in 2005, I was at a cell phone training, and this is when I was first starting to get training in cell phones and become a cell phone examiner and, you know, get evidence from cell phones. And we're talking flip phones here. We're not talking smartphones, and, you know, they weren't as smart as they are now. And I remember the instructor was talking, and he was saying, okay, you guys, you have to realize that pretty soon everything's going to be in the cloud. Everything's going to be in the cloud. All the information's going to the cloud.
Everybody looked up.
And I remember thinking, who in their right mind would store their information somewhere else?
Yeah.
And why would this become such a big thing? And one of the things, you know, he said is, he goes, in the future, it's going to be whoever controls the information has the power. And it's kind of what it is, you know, and
it's getting there. Yeah.
And that the cloud, you know, but I remember thinking back to that, thinking, that's the stupidest thing I ever heard. The cloud? Who's going to use the cloud? And now, gosh, did you back it up to the cloud?
Yeah.
Did you back it up to the cloud?
Physical old school storage is going away.
Yeah. Which the cloud just means someone else's computer.
Exactly.
Somewhere else.
But yeah.
And that's where you got to trust who has your data.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it comes back to that, you know, that CJIS standard too. That's why we still have so much data stored locally at the police department, is because we can't just say, oh, let's just put that on Yahoo or Google or whatever.
Amazon
you know,
Web,
you have to
whatever.
have these certain safeguards in effect, and then that's where it gets more expensive.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Crazy
you can
expensive.
have CJIS certified Google storage.
Mm-hmm.
It's just very expensive, because then not only does Google's not going to put your information with everybody else's.
Yeah.
They have to then dedicate a server just to you and put a whole bunch of rules and a whole bunch of safeguards on that server.
Which is a lot of cost for them as well.
And so that's why they charge you a lot of money to have a CJIS compliant server. And so, but Microsoft has them too. Microsoft has them with Azure servers and stuff like that are CJIS compatible.
Yeah.
But anytime you get into that, you say CJIS compliant.
Yeah.
Oh dear God, it gets really expensive.
Again, a technology probably eventually, not if, but when for us, just we're not there yet. So
Well, it's and I think that's part of the draw for me in doing it, is that it's constantly changing.
yeah,
And
never a boring day at work.
being on the forefront of helping things be better is just, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Wow. Awesome. Well, to the audience, that wraps up today's episode of the Chief's Briefing. A big thank you to Brian Birdsell for giving us a deeper look into the technology powering the Lewiston Police Department, but also the city overall. To the audience, thank you for listening. I hope you'll join us for our next episode, where we continue to highlight the people, the stories, and efforts that make Lewiston a secure and connected community. And until next time, Lewiston, please stay safe, stay informed, and take care of each other.